Hey, everybody. It's Charles McFall, Georgia Institute of EMS. I'm here with the EMS Underground today, and I'm going to be talking about some teachable moments that we have in life and how exactly we can, in the industry, help prepare others and why the industry is so slow on doing it in education to real life moments. And just thought I'd model what it could look like. But I've got a few things to set up here. And for some stinking reason, the internet does not want to treat my laptop correctly here. So I've got to get back to the Facebook page. But got a lot of cool stuff coming up. Welcome to the show. We're going to get this thing rolling. I've had a few people reach out since last week. So use that Charles at GAIEMS.com to get a hold of me directly. That is actually the best way to do that. And or call the 678-561-2368. You can get a hold of me that way as well. So I've got the internet set correctly. Let me get this chat room pulled up as we do. We get things going and get stuff rocking on. And because I am the only one here today, I am going to hold off on doing all the invites and stuff that I do. But if you're watching and you want people to watch, hit that little plus button at the top of the chat with the person, the little shadow plus button, and get that going. And I'd love to have you in. So, recently it's been pointed out, that things happen like we talk about here on the show. I talk about in the cab, the paramedic who punched a kid in the face. And I think we talked about it a little bit here. Well, he's a juvenile technically. I think he's 17 years old. But he's handcuffed, that incident in the cab, the paramedic that did that. And we talked about it here. And I think I might have broken it down. But later I ended up using that in class and teaching the class. Because here at Georgia Institute of EMS, we try to be flexible and incorporate real-world teaching and things that go on. Hey, Rachel Talent. Thanks for popping in. Norm and Vanessa and Chelsea. All of you popping in. And like I said, share, invite, do all those things. Our industry is super slow to move on anything. Textbooks take years to put together. And the way the industry is built, the industry of educating paramedics and EMTs is what I'm going to stick to today. This might relate to a lot of different areas of education, but definitely going to stick to the EMT and paramedic area that I'm familiar with. It takes years, and it's just, it relies very, very heavily on the instructor itself. So, my teaching style is different than somebody else's teaching style. Some instructors will just read off the screen, right? They will just, they will just simply put a slide up, read off of it, and keep moving on. I tend to ramble. That's one of my weaknesses is I tend to tell too many stories and take an hour-long class, making it an hour and a half to hour and 45 minutes long when it could have been a lot faster than that. So, there's different pros and cons to all of this, but here we try to move with it. But the industry as a whole is not set up to be flexible. It is, you've got to teach these core skills. You've got to teach this core understanding. And, teach being a relative term as well, because we don't have to teach. We can just put up lectures. And we've never just turned somebody over to the internet here at Georgia Institute of EMS. But we have a hybrid program that allows you to watch the lectures online and allows you to read the book and pass the quizzes and pass the exams. And as long as you can test and be competent at the end of that class, there's a lot of self-teaching there. So, but you lack the input of experience and other points of view and questions from people, those kind of things. So, on the other side of that, I don't know why we don't really talk about psychological emergencies that much. At best, it's an hour-long lecture, and it covers everything that could possibly fall under that category, from drug use, right? Psychological emergencies will have drug use, like PCP and overdoses and combative patients, to possible schizophrenia, to altered mental statuses. I know when I went to paramedic school in 1999 that the psychology was very, very low. We didn't even talk about autism in paramedic school. We barely talked about schizophrenia, people seeing things that aren't there, mental. And it was just a very quick, here's the chapter, we kind of touch on a little bit, and that's it. And I think we harm our community and we harm our paramedics and the people serving the community by not teaching about these things, by not making curriculum. And that's something that we're working on here at the school, but nobody does it as far as I know. I mean, I got to be, here's the caveat for everything I say today is I'm talking from my limited experience. By all means, there might be a school in Georgia that has a fleshed out mental health, mental illness response class. There might be, hey, Graham or Grantham, all the way up in New Jersey. But for the most part, I feel like in my 22 years in the field that I was woefully prepared for any kind of mental and psychological emergencies. Now, we shared a post a little while back. I don't think we talked about it, about this incident in South Carolina in March where paramedics confronted what turned out to be later a schizophrenic man. And thanks, Frank. Yeah, this is just one of the studios. This is more or less a lecture studio, by the way. Normally on Fridays I do it from the show studio, which is just the next room over. But I didn't feel like sitting at the couches today because I'm the only one doing it, and I wanted to access videos and do that kind of thing for teaching today. So thanks for the comments, Frank. I appreciate you. But we definitely shared this live body cam, this unedited body cam video from Jim's on our Facebook page a little while back of the incident, right, of the South Carolina medics and the police officers talking to this schizophrenic man. And there's no obvious signs. And at the time it was, what is your take? What's yours, seeing how people reacted to it. And universally it was, this was mishandled. And I mean, it ranged from, they needed better education, they weren't prepared to, they needed to be fired and railroaded out of town and death to infidels. I don't know. I don't know. It was just, there was some vitriol, right? There was some anger, and I didn't know how to tackle it necessarily on the show because one of my things is, right, I'd like to break down things. I like to show what went wrong, ask the hard questions, and possibly give solutions, or at least educate. Here's what you need to understand about it. And I wasn't exactly sure how to handle this. And then somebody definitely brought up, like, why is nobody teaching about this video? And in an educational class, right? Why is nobody using this as a, hey, here's how you can prepare better for it? Now, in EMS, one of the things we do is called tabletop, right? We can go back after a call in a closed room with the medics and the first responders, everybody who was involved in the call, and go over quality control, walk through it. What happened? Here's, what do we think we can do better, right? It's supposed to lift blame off the table, and how can we improve? What went wrong? How can we do it better? I don't think that's used very often at all. I think maybe in a critical stress debriefing, and I'd love to see it used more because it's golly, I can't even talk about it enough. Because education is a minute-by-minute thing, right? I try to do the life of EMS, which I'm going to do a series here on this channel about the life of EMS, and that's preparing EMTs to enter the field. That's educating medics and advanced EMTs who've been in the field for a while on how they can improve their life. It's the things that we don't talk about in the textbooks. The textbooks will teach you how to stop bleeding, how to recognize shock. That's what the textbooks are for. But where do we get to really flesh out an education, and how? Without writing your own textbook from scratch, how do you do that? And those are not questions I can necessarily answer today, but I do want to show what it would look like if we take a current event, take the anger out of it, take the judgment out of it, and break down what we can do better in that, how we can prepare better, how to prepare our students for this situation, what they can look for. Visuals are great. And actually I made some notes about it, so I left them on my desk. I'm going to grab that real quick. All right. There we go. I'm a professional. I have everything ready to go. But yeah, so I have my laptop set up here, and I am going to try to flip back and forth between seeing the chat room. Actually, I guess I can pull it up on over here. Actually, can't I? I can pull up the chat room on my control tablet here. Awesome. Perfect. So I'll be able to see some of your comments as we go along. Ask your questions, if you will. I've got certain markers, but yeah, I'm going to go through this video that's on YouTube. It was shared by Jim's originally, and we shared their post, and we shared the video itself. So this is an incident that happened in South Carolina back in March. Man, my headphones are falling apart. What's up with that? But back in March of this year, of 2019, and ultimately the patient died. He was struck by a car about 4 hours after this video was made. I am going to point out the things I thought where the failings are, and I'm going to follow up afterwards with some of the results of things that happened. But basically, this is how we should teach. I believe this is how we should teach. Thanks, Paul. How we should teach from things that happened. Because no, a classroom cannot prepare you for every literal possibility of things that can come. However, I believe as an industry of educators, we fall short drastically on some basic principles of human connection, of how to deal with things at 3 in the morning, of like I talked about with the life of EMS, of being prepared for the finances of being in this field, of workers in this field, how to mentally prepare for violence and look for that and protect yourself. These are things I either learned the hard way coming through my career in EMS, or fortunately had a few people point some things out and educate me on some things. And I try to incorporate all this throughout my teaching whenever I do teach here at the school. But we have a large amount of teachers and a large amount of classes, so I don't get to teach every class, and everybody's different. So, here we go. Like here we go. This is I've got a few moments. We're not going to watch the whole entirety of the video. We're going to skip the different some moments, but the first minute, so we're going to see how this call lines up. Now we get the history of it. We get the history of what happens a little bit into the video, but so I'm just going to start it off as the video is right here. You know what? I just realized I'm not sure how the sound is going to come in. All right, I've got an idea. So you're going to have to bear with me just one moment while I did forget to get sound connected to the board. So I'm going to get that hooked up. I'm a professional. I always get everything right. That is something that I do talk about in our teaching, is that we're all human beings, even as educators, even as somebody seasoned in the field of emergency medicine. We're all human beings, and sometimes things go a little sideways. So I'm going to test the audio real quick. I need to make sure that this is muted good. Okay. So I've got let me test the audio. There we go. All right, let me swap the camera over. And now we're just following him in the field. Now this, by the way, this is a highway in South Carolina. I'm not entirely sure what time of night it is, but obviously it's a little bit later, right? It's definitely after dark. And here's the first thing that jumped out to me about the video is, as we talk about scene safety, right? As we talk about scene size up, mechanism of injury, those kind of things. How are we sizing up this scene? Well, all I have is the body cam video, and presumably it was the police that called the ambulance out. Now, there are 3 EMT technicians. I don't know the varying levels. Don't know why there are 3, because one of them actually does basically nothing the whole time. Maybe it's a third rider. That could be, right? A trainee, a student, that kind of thing. So 2 of them are obviously engaged here, and the other one doesn't really do a whole lot. But as we walk, the police officer who's in charge of the scene, we're on his chest, right? We're on that body cam. And he's behind the 3 EMTs. One's a medic, one's an EMT. I don't know what the third person's level is. So we are behind them, and we're letting the patient just kind of walk wherever they want to in this scenario. I don't know what I would tell them I would do differently, but instantly, like, no, I feel like I need to kind of be there close to the patient. I need the police officer should kind of be up there closer. We need to be making sure he's going where we want him to, and being kept safe, right? But it's the first flag is he's not engaging. He's not running. He's not belligerent. What's going on here? All right, so they walk up past the one of the police cars, and there he is off to the right.
Come over here.
And he just starts walking off. Okay, my first thoughts as I'm assessing this, you're possibly drunk. You're possibly got something to hide, so maybe you're going to take off. If he wanted to run into traffic right this second, he could and kill himself, or at least seriously hurt himself. If he wanted to run off into the darkness, I mean, I don't understand. So what I'm teaching here, scene safety, is you need to control the scene as best you can, right? So somebody could have been out there gently, just had their gentle arm on their hand on his arm, and kind of gently guiding him to the ambulance, right? Talking to him the whole time. What's your name? How's it going? Right now, they're just kind of following him. And I don't know if this is a median. I don't know if this is a field off to the side of the highway, but he just kind of randomly turns. That's not typical behavior, right? So my flags are going, something's not right here. Is he drinking? Is he got alcohol on him? That's drinking, sorry. Is he been doing any kind of drugs? Is he altered in any way, basically? Or is he got something else going on, like he needs to run or fight? I'm not thinking mental health. Now, again, Monday afternoon quarterbacks, right? And Sunday's the football game. We've had a whole 24 hours to think about what we do differently, and, this is what you should do. That's what I'm trying to avoid here, because I obviously know. I've read the articles. I've watched this video a couple of times. I know he has schizophrenia, so I'm really trying to paint the picture. We don't know this going into it, so I'm not even thinking mental health, but I am thinking something's not right.
Hey, the ambulance is over here. Come on.
Now, he responded. He turned around.
Go over and see the girls in the ambulance. Come on. Come on. Go over see the girls in the ambulance.
Now, I don't know if you caught his face here, but very flat affect, right? Not a squinting from the lights, which if you've been on a scene and you've got all the lights going around, it gets bright, especially in the darkness. So he's not squinting from the lights. He's not engaging with the police officer, right? He's not looking at the police officer. He's not head on a swivel trying to get away. He's just kind of there, and that's a little odd. And the EMTs walk ahead and get into the truck.
Check your vitals. That's all they're gonna do.
That's okay, but one of the things I teach about scene safety is never let somebody get between you and your route of escape, meaning you don't turn your back on a patient, and 2 out of the 3 EMTs dead right now in this scene. Now, the cops are there. It's a little safe, but me being paranoid, I'd rather see the danger coming than trust that the cop's going to stop it before it gets to me. Not that he couldn't do his job, but take care of yourself.
Come on. So I'm going to check your vitals. Make sure everything's okay.
Still can't really see the patient all that well right now.
Have a seat.
So she's instructing him to sit on the bench.
Sit down.
All right. Now, here's something else that needs to be done differently. That maybe happened ahead of time. All I have is this video to go by. They're giving direct commands and they're being a little aggressive instantly. Sit down. Sit down. Go in there and sit down. It's that tone of voice. I have been guilty of 3 a.m. grumpiness. I've been guilty of being abrupt. So in the vein of teaching, what I'm trying to point out is we always need to engage our patient, right? That is something, as I went through the education to become a teacher here at the school, of really consent is they need to understand everything that's going on. We need to talk to them. You're going to see an example of this at the end of the video from the police officer of how you, whether they engage with you or not, how you're putting out the information, how you're talking to them, how you're trying to engage. I have, like I said, I've been guilty of this, of just giving commands, of being a little grumpy, and it sets a tone. as opposed to what can we do better. What we can do better is try to engage a little bit more. Okay, so we're going to get in here and see a little bit more. All right, so the cop's going to stand here at the side. You don't see a whole lot, but they end up putting the patient on the bench for some reason. Not entirely sure why, but that indicates to me as an experienced medic, that indicates a mindset of, we don't want to deal with this. We're hoping for some kind of refusal, or at least he'll go to jail, because you put someone on the stretcher, you're planning on taking them to the hospital. Now, I have been teaching in my classes here lately. Our job is to stop the degradation of health, right? Stop that progression that's leading to death, and just try to halt it as best we can, and if we can, improve it. And that's all health: mental health, emotional health, physical health, right? Bleeding, right? We want to stop the bleeding. That's that stopping, because if they continue to bleed, no matter what, you lose enough blood, you'll go to shock, you'll go down that path to death. And what we're trying to do is stop that progression, and even reverse it if we can, right? But the number one thing we have to do is get somebody to definitive care. We can stop that degradation en route to the hospital. And I know a lot of students that came out of here, and a lot of people actually work in the field currently in our area here in Georgia, are in that mindset of, you walk up to a patient, you walk in, assuming you're going to take them to the hospital. Which hospital would you like to go? Of course, we're going, hey, what's going on? What's the problem? How's it going? And in this case, again, I don't know what they asked him before the body cam footage, right? But all they're hitting is, what's your name? Never once do they explain who they are, which is something you should do as an EMT. And I say never once, I mean on the video. Again, caveat, on the video, I never hear them say, this is who I am, we're here to help you. Can you tell us why you're out here on the side of the road? And I'm all for blunt honesty with patients. And at some point, as they're trying to get his name, there would have come an appropriate time to say, hey, it is unusual for somebody to be walking down the side of a highway in the middle of the night with no shoes and no shirt on. Can you help us out? What's going on? Yeah, and that didn't happen. So let's jump up to around 2.5 minutes here. We'll get a little bit better view, but you'll hear them. I'm going to jump about 2:12 here. Yeah, and my point with this is the aggressiveness really picks up with the meditation. Oh, wait. Okay, so let me back up a little bit. I missed this. So he sits down on a bench and immediately puts his head down like he's sleeping. Okay, that could be a tactic, right? That could be somebody who doesn't, they want to manipulate the situation. Maybe they are high on drugs or deep into alcohol, and they're kind of taking mini naps. There could be a number of reasons. Maybe something is seriously wrong with the patient, and they can't maintain their level of consciousness. But here's what they do. I need to point this out.
So you have to talk to us.
So he's looking at her.
Right?
Now she says, hold on.
So you have to talk to us. All right?
So you're going to have to talk to us. Everything that I'm seeing in the video that I want you to understand as citizens, or you as a potential EMT student or a current EMT student, everything I'm seeing in this video is we are telling you what to do. And you see how it has that verbal effect, as opposed to, hey, I'm Charles, man, I'm here to help. What's going on tonight? And it is harder. Again, I'm sitting in a studio in air conditioning, having had a full night's sleep, not having to have run however many calls they had to run. Okay, I'm not picking apart them. I'm trying to show you what you should be doing. If perhaps she had sat on the stretcher next to him. Now, I don't know why you put them on the bench. I've done that once or twice for a transport, just because they're more comfortable on the bench and buckled them in. But for assessment, if I put you on the stretcher, I can then sit on the bench and get on your level. And by no means do I think they're trying to intimidate the patient at all, but it makes it harder to access him, to get vital signs, to talk with him, to do any kind of medical intervention. What happens if he is high on drugs and all of a sudden he's overdosing? Right now you've got to move him in this tight space, and hopefully he doesn't fall down in between the stretcher and the bench. Because as you can see, this lady right here in front of us on the camera, she has a hard time even sliding in between the stretcher and the bench. So what happens if he has an overdose or a seizure and he falls down, it's very difficult to get him out of that space and onto the stretcher where he needs to be. So try to avoid placing patients that you need to check out that you don't know what's going on. Just put them on your stretcher. Just go ahead and do that.
What's your name?
Now he's not answering anything.
Yeah, the little kid. Give me the little kid.
Now look, he puts his head down like he's sleeping.
You speak English? Hey. Hey.
That's all I've been getting.
So-
He's
Now, what we're doing is AVPU, right? Alert, verbal, painful, unresponsive. He was following commands, which kind of puts him in the alert, maybe the verbal, right? Because he's not engaging. He's not making the eye contact. He's not answering questions. But, hey, when the guy's like, hey, buddy, come over this way. He turns. He follows. They told him to sit on a bench. He does. But now he's asleep, passed out. His level of consciousness technically has dropped. Is it a real drop? I don't know. Is it a fake drop? Don't know. So that smacking you, I don't know what she's actually doing, but you hear a little noise. That's her going from, hey, talk to me. That's went from alert to verbal, and then now to pain, right? So she's doing a medical, either a sternal rub or maybe even just a pat on the shoulder. Hey, man, what's going on? And so that's how we do to get that level of consciousness to see if he's going to respond.
head up, eyes up, looking around. Next minute, head down.
Give me some out of me.
Yes, ma'am.
And basically, she's getting an ammonia inhalant.
Get ready to wake up.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you, because I'm trying to be impartial as a teacher to use it as a teaching tool, I'm actually really mad at this next thing that's about to happen here. And she even led with that aggressiveness. He's getting ready to wake up. You know, I have worked with medics personally who are friends of mine. I think they're great paramedics, but their rule was after midnight, everybody gets like a 14 gauge IV, at least try it. That's punishment. And there's a little bit of punishment that happens here, and it really does bother me. And we're going to talk about it. Okay, so she's going to put, now the ammonia inhalant, I've always used it, I put it underneath their nose. Like you just hold them and they wake up. It really works if you're unconscious. It works well if you're faking unconsciousness as well. She sticks it, it could be, they called it smelling salts in the news. She said, hand me a blank. I didn't quite catch the word she said, hand me, but it's something along the lines of ammonia inhalant, that kind of thing. It's super strong. Putting it under their nose is enough. I mean, just having it in the truck, you're going to get hit with that smell. She sticks it in his nose. And I'm going to jump ahead to a little more of aggressiveness here. And I wrote down, okay, it's about 4.5 minutes in. So we're at the 2 minute mark. She's about to stick this in his nose. It stays in for 2 minutes.
Grown man. And what's going on? Here. Talk to me.
So he
Talk
alerts
to me.
back up because they stuck this in his nose.
You don't want it up your nose, then talk to me.
What does an ammonia inhalant have anything to do with talking to a patient? Nothing is the answer. If you don't want that up your nose, talk to me. That is punishment. That is at 2.5 minutes. I have a note at 4.5 minutes that it's still there, and they're talking about it as a punishment. You want that out of your nose. I know it smells bad. You just abused a patient. Because we can justify using the inhalant. Absolutely. He put his head down. We don't know if he's actually unconscious or not, and he didn't alert to you when you're touching him. He didn't come back up and look around. Yes, you can use it, but once he's up, it worked.
Stop acting stupid. You're a grown man. And what's going on?
Stop acting stupid. They're very aggressive to this patient.
Don't
I'm going to tell you as an educator right now, aggressiveness will get you nowhere with any kind of patient. When you become aggressive, it's like an ultimatum. It's here's the line. You do this and this will happen. Pretty much every time the this will happen thing happens, right? Either don't talk to me or talk to me the way I want you to. Well, they're probably not going to talk to you. So aggressiveness, and I've used it too. And I've used it to control a patient, as in they're getting mouthy. I could see it ramping up. They're starting to say they're going to get off the stretcher and do this. And my aggressiveness has been, this is a tight space, and I take up most of it. Now, I said it more aggressively than I'm saying now. By no means am I trying to paint a picture that I'm a saint. And we'll talk about aggressiveness here in a second. That was, or lack thereof, that really got results for me. But I'm no saint. So I said it more aggressively than I'm saying it right now in this educational environment. But my thing was, I fill the space. You get up and start a fight, there's not a whole lot of room for me and you to go. I'm going to win because I go home in the morning. But if you just sit there and chill out, we're going to take you where you want to be. We're going to get you to the hospital. You can leave the hospital against medical advice all you want. Or we can pull over the truck and you're free to get out. But you get up swinging, one of us is not going to go home tomorrow. And my rule is I always go home tomorrow. And that calmed the patient down. And I got him to do what I wanted, which was just chill out. I got nothing else out of him. I made no more progress with that. Now, the lack of aggressiveness, it did work. The other day I was teaching, I said something wrong in my lecture. I totally gave a wrong fact, reading off the slide and misremembering. And I hadn't studied for that class. I just walked in, flipped up the slides, was teaching from experience, and I messed up this fact. And one of the students said, hold on a second, sorry, I'm confused. And he said, this is what the book says. I went, all right, this is exactly why I ask you every time before I start my lectures, I ask you, have you read your book? Because I don't remember everything. I don't have every fact memorized. I'm giving you the most of what you need to know, but we've told you 1,000 times. We told you from orientation, we tell you every class that you come into. The lectures cover part of the information. The book covers the other part of the information. They go together. Because I'm a human being, and sometimes I'm going to say something incorrectly. I'm going to misstate something. And thank you. And I point out, thanks for saying something to me. And then after the class was over, I made sure to stop the class because they were going to break before the lesson. Like, use that as a lesson for your life. When you're an EMT as a student in the field, when you're an EMT working in the field, when you're advanced, when you're even a medic, ask your partner, ask the doctors, ask whoever you're with, ask them. Maybe not in front of the patient, know your timing, but say, hey, I was taught this way. Can you tell me why you did it that way? What was different? And get the education. And I said, that absolutely worked. Because he could have said, hold on a second. He could have been aggressive. He could have challenged me and challenged my knowledge. I would have responded the same way. I would have been like, hey, sorry, I'm human. But I might have gotten defensive because that aggression makes us defensive. So them being aggressive here, it just puts, if he were to respond, which he never does, he never says a word, which is a problem we're going to get into. That aggressiveness could shut down any good progress you want to make.
Don't shrug your shoulders and do your hands. Tell me. Open your mouth and talk to me.
And Nathan, you're absolutely right. You're supposed to be a patient advocate, and clearly they are not. So patient advocate, that's something we definitely talk about in our classes, is when you're there, you're not there to control the patient. We're not the ultimate power. Now, we also teach that box is your world and you're in control of it. If the patient doesn't want to be there, they can leave. If they want to be there, they need to cooperate with you. But there's no real control. There's only, let's talk about worst case scenario, right, with control in this situation, with I'm in the power. Well, if somebody wants to insert their power, or assert rather their power, or take your power, it gets into a physical altercation. Everybody loses in a physical altercation. Everybody. The police officers are behind two of the EMTs. One is outside the door. One who has the body cam is right here at the door. Neither one of them can get to the patient. He's not under arrest. He doesn't have to be there. So your job is to figure out, being a patient advocate, even sometimes against the patient, right? And maybe in this case, because he's not talking, we're against the patient because he's not talking, but we're still advocating for him against himself by going, well, there's something not right here. Let me get your vital signs. I'm going to check you out. Can you talk? Help me out. But the bottom line is, it is unusual. It is not normal behavior for somebody to walk down a highway at night with as we get into it later, early reports say he had no clothes on. He has no shirt, no shoes on, and for them not to talk, to not be belligerent. He's not. So if if you got alcohol or drugs in your system and the police are there, you're usually belligerent and talking and fighting or leave me alone. He's not saying anything. And once we really get a look at his face, watch his affect. He's just kind of not there. Something's not right. These are all flags that you need to see as students, as EMTs, as medics in the field. These should be things that say, as patient advocates, thank you for bringing that point up, Nathan. As patient advocates, these are things that should say, I've got to help you because you're not helping yourself. Something is wrong. And you're not refusing. It is better to err on the side of safety than it is, because I'm helping the patient because there is something wrong, than it is to say, well, they have the right to walk away. No, he's if he cannot prove he's alert and oriented times 4, if he cannot prove that he has a sound mind, he has no right to consent or refuse. We're going to get a little more into this. All right, so you get that they're being aggressive. They're talking about, let me jump to my next note here. Because they become less aggressive here, doing some vital signs. Here we go.
Hello? What's your name?
Now, as they're transitioning into being less aggressive and more helpful here in a second, that's what I'm showing. I don't understand why they're stuck on the name thing. That's literally all they ask him the whole time. What's your name? What's your name? What's your name? Can you tell me where you came from? Can you tell me why you're out on the side of the road? Can you tell me what your favorite color is? Can you tell me anything? I don't know if any of it would have changed. I just don't understand why it's what's your name? What's your name? I don't get that. That's just if you ask the question, because not necessarily you are, but if you ask the question, why are they? I don't know why they're constantly asking that question. But they're doing vitals, and he's letting them do vitals.
Yeah, he is. 124.99.
Oh, so what I talked over is like, is he breathing? He is breathing, right? Or one of them said he is breathing, right? Now, as you can see, his posture, he's leaning forward, he's supporting himself. I can't see his face, but presumably because they were talking to him, his face is up. And when she said, yeah, he is, it was heart rate 124, which is tachycardia, right? Even nervousness doesn't necessarily jack it up that high. But he's not showing any signs of nervousness. So according to her, the pulse is 124 and 98 or 99, whatever she said, which was room air, the oxygen saturation. That's what she did. I think maybe this blonde lady here is possibly a third rider orientating, because she lets the other two ladies control the scene, and she's just kind of assisting. I don't know what level she is.
What's your name?
You hear the voice kind of change. You're getting nicer.
You can talk.
Hey, speak English?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know why they said yes, because we can't see. Maybe he shook his head.
Transferring before.
Okay. I've transported him before, is what one of the EMTs says. Or maybe I think I've transported him before, but that came up. I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead to the fact that that inhalant is still in his nose.
What's your name?
What's your name? It's funny.
You don't have to be reluctant. We all just.
Now, the way the blonde is taking it here, I don't know what to call it. I don't have her name, so I can only differentiate between the three by position on the camera. Okay, the one main on the screen here. That felt like a personal touch. She wasn't mocking him. She wasn't angry. You think it's kind of like a kid thing. Oh, is that funny? Is that, she seemed to be trying to find it. I just want to be clear. I feel like as a professional that she was trying to, my professional opinion is she was trying to connect with the patient.
Just trying to help you out, bud.
All right, so check this out. Can you please tell us your name so you can take this out your nose?
2 minutes. 2 minutes an ammonia inhaler or smelling salts or whatever it is stuck in his nose because he won't tell them their name. Now, we got verbal, because the camera wasn't in place, we got verbal confirmation that he was up and looking at him. I believe when they asked him about speaking English and they all said yes, he shook his head. He is alert. He is at least alert to verbal. He is looking around. Why is that in his nose? That is a breach of ethics. That might be a breach of some kind of criminal act, because we are patient advocates. We are here to help. There's no medical treatment that's going on. You left something in his nose to punish him because he's not telling his name. That's literally what she just said, and that's why I wanted to jump back to that point. I'm going to show it again.
Buddy?
You don't have to be reluctant. We all just trying to help you out, bud.
All right, so check this out. Can you please tell us your name so you can take this out your nose? I know it stinks. We know it stinks. Come on, partner.
It's just your name.
Everybody here's just trying to help you out, bud.
I've transported before. Okay.
Second time that's been said. I transported him before, is what she is saying. The closest EMT here to us on the bench.
Where transported from.
You want to try it again?
Yeah.
Look at his body posture as well. This is something that's not taught in the textbooks. And sometimes us as teachers, we will actually kind of bring it out if the opportunity arises. If it triggers, hey, how do we determine what's going on with the patient besides just examining the body? Or if we're talking to a conscious patient and we've not examined them yet, body posture. We come in, I always try to come in my back straight, not because I'm barreling over people, but because this looks weak and there's aggressive stances. There's all kind of way to do it. But I try to come in and like, you can trust me. I'm here to help. That's why I straighten my shoulders up. I kind of try to walk in tall into a room and then immediately get down on their level, but still keep my shoulders up. It's just something, it makes me feel better. And if I feel better, I'm producing confidence or promoting confidence to the people that I'm helping. Look at his body. There's nothing aggressive here. There's no twitching, which kind of goes along with alcohol or drugs. He's just sitting there. That's a sign. That's a flag that you should look for of abnormality, right? Sometimes we talk about pertinent negatives. The pertinent negatives here is, and Nathan, well, I'll bring that up, Nathan. We'll talk about that in a second. But the pertinent negative here is he's not talking. He's not cooperating. He's not engaging. Normal human, even altered human beings engage, which tells us there's something off. Now, Nathan, you're right. Now, I can't tell if she's complaining that she's transporting him. The reason I pointed it out is if you transported him, you should have some vague memory of at least this is a patient, or that's a flag. She said it twice, and the reason I pointed it out is that's a flag that we have dealt with him before. Maybe she misremembered. Maybe she hadn't. But the flag is, you think you dealt with him. Let's go ahead and get him prepared to the hospital. I'm assuming the lady closest to the back doors is the medic. And now they have badges on. Obviously, it identifies who they are. They have the service on. But from the video, I cannot tell their levels. And from an article I read, I know one's a paramedic, one's an EMT. And I presume the blonde here on the right side of the screen is possibly a trainee. She's never mentioned in the articles, or she is, somebody else isn't. Only two names were mentioned in the articles. One's a medic, one's an EMT. I presume the one by the doors is the medic, and the EMT's on the bench. But the question that gets missed here, okay, you transported him before. Do you remember what happened with that call? Why are we not asking that? Why are we not at least taking that basic flag of, I believe I transported him before. All right, you know what? He's not talking to us. Let's just get ready to go to the hospital. That to me is a flag. So, yeah, for the second time that was mentioned that I've transported him before. Okay, I'll just let it roll because I got my next marker in about 14 seconds.
What's your name?
I was going, hold on.
Now they're trying to get blood pressure, an automatic blood pressure, and he's not moving. But for some reason, it's not taking the pressure correctly because she ultimately does a manual here in a minute.
Just relax the normal.
But we always teach at Georgia Institute of EMS. We always teach. Put your hand on their pulse because that's going to tell you the quality and rate. Because maybe he's not responding because he's got an irregular pulse. And you'll know that by taking his pulse. Maybe they did. There was definitely a time where the angle was of the camera was there where we didn't. But I'm going to say, since I saw the third rider, is what I'm going to call her, since I saw the third rider here talk about the pulse ox and take it off his finger, I don't think they checked his pulse. That's a sign, right? To me, right now, this patient's altered. He has an altered LOC because he's not really responding to verbals. Like, he's not looking around. He's not checking things. He's just kind of there, flat aspect, down. And because you can't answer my questions, I have to put you under altered. Because the risk is what happened. The risk is if I let you go without you proving to me beyond a medical shadow of a doubt that you're not altered, and you know the risk, because that's what a refusal is, right? Informed of the risk leading up to even death of what can happen. He's not telling you his name. He's not engaging. You have no reason to believe that he's not altered at this point.
Okay, thank you.
118. I wish mine was 118.
So I guess he's seeing the heart rate maybe, but I don't see them having put on any kind of leads.
Hello?
Or maybe that was the blood pressure. I don't know what he's talking about with the 118.
Everybody's got a name?
Now you see, watch as she moves her head. Because I was talking over, I'm going to go back. You see how he kind of engages a little bit with his eyes.
Okay, thank
And again, I want to point out they've dropped their aggressiveness. And here she goes, can you please straighten your arm out? Thank you. They're talking in lower, softer tones, which is what you should be doing.
you.
118. I wish mine was 118.
What's your name? Hello? What's your name?
See? He looks.
Everybody's got a name? Yeah? What's your
Sure.
name?
Now, what else is he looking at? Because he's not just looking at her, but he's not looking at other people. I saw his eyes go up. Maybe he's looking at the officer because presumably our camera's in the chest, so maybe he's looking at the officer. Maybe he's not. Why is he not engaging? That's the ultimate question here.
What's your name? It's okay.
You don't want to say it in front of the police officer? Is that
I
what
told
it
him my name was Cliff. I tried to talk to him a few.
Okay, Cliff, that doesn't help, man. Some people don't want to talk in front of law enforcement. If they thought that was the case, they should have asked law enforcement, would you please step out for a second? Now, he took it as, well, no, I told him my name. Now, again, he probably did, because at the end of the video, you'll see how he engages with this guy in a minute, in a nice way. But, Cliff, that doesn't matter, buddy. Sometimes people are just intimidated by the badge or by men or whatever. If they thought it was because of the police, they should have, as you as a student, you as the medic, you as the citizen, should understand that if you think he's not talking because the law enforcement is there, you should ask law enforcement just to step out for a moment. And they will, typically.
Times he didn't want to talk.
You still
You want to write your name down? Can you write your name?
Give me a white or something. Ain't white. Yeah.
Watch him. Watch his
If
face.
it's an act, it's a pretty good act.
Yeah.
Good.
So he is kind of tracking. She moved. He looked at him. Something else moved. He kind of looked at that. But he's still not moving his body. He's just kind of, little things are catching his attention. Something's not right here. What's my next marker? Okay, so yeah, I actually marked that. His body posture. That he is obviously, there it is in his nose. What I believe to be an ammonia inhalant is still there. That is never, and well, it's not red, and it's kind of far away. But when I used to use ammonia inhalants, they turn red, kind of like iodine. As this crushed plastic thing. It's still there. Whatever they use to wake him up, smelling salts is what the article called it. I believe it is some kind of an inhalant, like an ammonia inhalant. Why is it in his nose?
I see the same thing when I see a variety of drugs being used.
Yeah.
Now, if you're taking something, we're not.
So I marked here too. They're hung up on the name. They're not communicating. So treat them like a human being. What they should have been saying is, I'm going to take your blood pressure. Is there any, why? Are you hurt anywhere? What's going on? Why? Do you not want to talk to me? They're not explaining anything. They're just going, what's your name? What's your name? treat him like a human being. Just start talking to him. Hey, your blood pressure is this. Is that normal for you? Have you ever been sick before? Do you have a mom, a sister, a wife? Is there somebody we can call for you? And I'm not saying it would have worked, but this "what's your name" thing, and they not once said, other than I heard her say, "keep your arms straight." They not once said, "we're checking your vital signs." They've not once said, "we're here to help you." It's always, "what's your name? What's your name? What's your name?"
I'm not here to judge you.
What you been
You want to
taking?
get treatment. If you're taking anything, we don't get treatment for it.
We're about to get the backstory on what happened with this call.
We all just want to make sure you're okay. That's all we want.
So exactly what they find you running down the highway or something?
Okay, we are 6.5 minutes into the video, which probably puts us about 5 to 8 minutes into the call from them arriving on scene. Okay, because we came into them walking. They had obviously walked away from the ambulance because we were walking back to it. So I'm adding a little bit of time. Let's call it 10 minutes. We're 10 minutes in, and we don't know the backstory of the patient. Scene safety, mechanism of injury, nature of illness, right? Scene safety is PPE, right? We're getting there. We gaze the scene. They let him get away from them. That's not control of the scene. That's not scene safety because that's dangerous. And they waited till now to ask what's going on. So she asked, "What? Somebody's found him walking down the road. What's going on?"
Supposedly he was naked on top of the cab of a tractor. The driver
Tractor trailer, Big Mac, truck is what he's referring to.
said he picked him up. He doesn't know a whole lot. He can't tell us anything.
Where you from?
This young man's not saying anything.
So I don't know if the monitor just didn't read the pressure, but she's going to manual. So good on you.
You got no ID?
That's a great question. Do you have your ID? Then the next thing is, can I pat your pocket? If he's not engaged, can I pat your pockets and see if you have anything? Because I've never challenged this in court. I don't know what the legal ramifications are from state to state. I know in an effort to help a patient, especially an unconscious one, I've not dealt with this before. I've never had to deal with somebody who's obviously conscious, airway is open because he's breathing, and he's got circulation. ABCs are managed. There's no obvious life threats here, so now I'm trying to figure out the mystery. I've never had to deal with somebody who just would never engage, who in this case had a mental illness. Okay? I haven't had to deal with that. I forget my point. I forget my point now. So let me go back to what she said, what triggered me here.
He doesn't know.
Oh, ID. So I've absolutely gone into a pocket, pulled out a wallet, pulled out an ID. If somebody was kind of disabled in the sense of physically they could not get to it, like a car accident, trauma, broken arms. I've shown them, look, I've got your wallet, I've got your ID, I'm putting your wallet back here, it's right between your legs. So that they see, one, I'm not stealing from you, two, you know everything that's going on. Okay, and I see your name, Bob Smith. Okay, and it says here, is this your ad? You know, so we can contact your family, so we can get you help, or let your family, your loved ones know where you are. That is definitely a thing. So that was a great question. Do you have ID? She should have followed up a little bit more with that, but
A whole lot. He can't tell us anything.
Where you from?
This young man's not saying anything.
You ain't got no ID?
Hey, where you from?
she finally sits down to where she's actually a little below his level. That's probably where she should have started, because Nathan even pointed out, he agrees that they're towering over the patient. I wouldn't talk either. It just brings that level of comfort to all patients. It brings that anxiety level down, if there is anxiety. Now, he watched her sit down. He is engaging eye contact here.
Seriously, talk to us. We want to
But she goes back to being aggressive.
get you some help.
All right, so that's going on. Let me see what my next marker is. We're actually almost to my next marker. This is where it gets unprofessional.
I just want to go ahead to the substation and go to sleep. So if you tell me your name, we'll let you go so I can go back to bed.
Now that's a tactic of human connection. It's late. We're all tired. You want to go? Now, he has made no indication that he wants to leave at all. There's no antsiness. There's no looking at the door. Can I get out? There's no trying to stand up and then sitting him back down. He has made no indication to leave. But right here, I believe Either it could be the negative, which is her just not caring and going back to bed. It could be the positive of, hey, we're all tired. We're just trying to connect. If we can work together, we could, all get to bed. I choose to believe right the second that she's going to the positive. Let's see what happens.
She's being serious.
I'm being fucking serious.
Oh, by the way, I didn't warn you. There's some language in the video. Sorry. That is 1,000 times unprofessional. She dropped the F-bomb on him. No reaction. He's not laughing. He's not engaging. Flat affect. Now, not straight flat. There's a mental disorder that is absolutely a straight affect. I mean, it's just I can't even do it. I mean, it's just a blank. I don't think it goes along with schizophrenia. I'm not saying this is exactly it, but his body posture never changed. Nothing registered here. Nothing is engaging. Now, other than the unprofessionalism of dropping the F-bomb, now there's a little bit of laughter. That's holy crap, infectious. You can get somebody laughing, that gets that human connection there, and it helps out. So this is still, other than that bomb, which is unprofessional, this is still okay.
I'm sleepy. Give me a damn name so I can go home.
She cussed at him again. Now she's getting aggressive. It went from, we could be doing a human connection thing here. Oh no, now I'm really not.
For real. I'm tired.
And for whatever reason, that made him laugh. Not them laughing, not some of the joking around. That part made him laugh. Now he's letting them do whatever he wants. That's also not a normal thing. It's not normal for one human just to let another human do whatever they want with their body. It indicates possibly he's had medical care before because he's just used to having things done. These are flags. That's what I'm pointing out. These are flags that maybe should be caught that says something's going on here. Would I have caught him at, let's say, 3 a.m. on this call? I don't know. But from an educational standpoint, from how this can be a teachable moment, this is what I'm trying to teach you.
What happened to your arm?
You been walking? How long you been walking?
That's from that damn blood pressure.
That's 3. She has made it clear she is done with this call now. Before, she was kind of saying, so now it colors everything we've seen before. Well, was it, hey, I've transported him before. Were you flagging and saying maybe we should help? No. If now it colors with your behavior right now, it colors that you're irritated, you don't want to be dealing with this. You've cussed at him 3 times now, and now you're harping on going to bed. You're too tired for this.
She just took off.
Leave me alone. I'm sleepy
Come on.
too. We're all sick here, okay?
Maybe we're getting to him, though. He didn't just laugh here. He didn't, because she didn't move or say anything special to him. He laughed and started engaging a little bit more.
I know you know what the hell we're talking about. You're sitting there laughing.
And you're sitting there laughing. That tone is a tone of frustration. And I'm only pointing it out because we all get frustrated. We all get tired. If you have a partner and you hear this in them and you're trying to rectify a situation or help a situation, start noticing that's the flags of seeing safety around you. Your partner could be tired. I could be your partner and be grumpy. I've had that happen where I didn't realize my tone was kind of aggressive or just I'm done with this crap tone. And I've had my partner go, hey, man, I got this call. It's cool. And I realized, okay, maybe I'm doing something off. And later it's like, yeah, you were kind of coming across tired, this and that. That's the teachable moment for that is you dropped your professionalism. You cussed at him 4 times now, and now you're kind of being aggressive. But that tone is, I'm just done with this. And that's kind of a bad place to be as an EMT. All right. I'm going to jump ahead to have a marker here about no understanding. So let's jump ahead.
Do you want to go home?
His face doesn't register anything. Do you want to go home? Nothing. Not the loud, he smiled a little bit, whatever, but not the earlier when the EMT who's closest to us on the right hand side of the screen, it was saying, "Is that funny?" And she again, I think she's saying it in a way of trying to get him to engage. Oh, is that funny? Can we talk about how that's funny? Nothing. She asked him a question. He looks and we find out there's a police officer in the doorway. And so when he's looking off to the side, because at first I'm like, what's he looking at? That's a sign too. If he's just looking at nothing, just looking around, that's a sign that there's a mental health issue as well. But I believe he's actually looking at the police officer. There's a second officer in the doorway that I think he's looking, because he speaks here in a little bit, very unprofessionally, but he speaks very in a little bit. But do you want to go? He didn't lock into her. He didn't recognize her question. He just kind of kept doing his thing.
Or do you want to go to the hospital? Or do you want to go to jail? Choice is yours.
Nothing. Nothing is registering here. Do you want to go home? He kind of looks around. Do you want to go to the hospital? He's just there. Do you want to go to jail? He look, and I can only presume there's maybe movement off camera because there wasn't a sound, and he just kind of looks over.
Provide any of the three. Sweet.
Nothing is registering. By the way, we're 8 minutes into the video. That's 6 minutes into that inhalant being in his nose. And that's a huge deal. To me, that's a huge deal. I'm not saying medically, it's going to do all this, but to me, that's a bad thing.
These ladies can't be out here all night like this. None of us can. You're tying up a lot of resources. We're trying to help you. Okay? If you don't want to go to the hospital, you can go with me.
So that's the officer kind of taking control of the situation now. It's been, and even in the breakdown, it feels like it's forever. Really, we're only 9 minutes in. And she actively keeps trying to get his blood pressure and this and that and the other. But how long are you going to stay on scene playing with this call? So the officer now, I think that's kind of in the back of his head. How long do we stay on scene? So he goes, they can't be out here all night. If you're not going to go with them, you're going to go with me. The officer's never said anything about arresting this guy. The lady said, do you want to go to jail? Or maybe he did. I may have missed it earlier. I may have misstated there. My point is, he's trying to take control of the scene. What I think should have happened as a medic, one, as I said, I would have walked him in, put him on the stretcher, because where else is he going to go? Has he committed a crime? Well, he can get back off my stretcher. You can put him in handcuffs, put him in the back of your car. Otherwise, it is not normal for somebody walking down the highway in the middle of the night, half naked, not responding to anything, not being aggressive, no obvious signs of ETOH, which is alcohol, no obvious signs of any kind of drug use, no obvious signs of anything other than this is not normal, so I'm going to need to take you on to the hospital. I would have spent maybe 3-4 minutes on this scene, and that's what I would encourage you to do is like, you know what? We're going to go ahead and take you to the hospital. Because he's not giving you any kind of alert and oriented. I think I said A&O times 4 earlier. That's alert and oriented. He's not saying my name is Bob Smith. My birthday is this. Today is June 7th. It's a Friday. It's nighttime. I'm in the state of South Carolina. All these things questions that we could, how many beers are in a 6-pack? You could ask him that. And if there's no answers, there's no indication that they're in their right mind from any kind of alteration. He could have a brain bleed. We don't know. He could have any kind of thing going on. We don't know. So there's nothing to say he is alert and can consent or refuse. We have to take him to the hospital. We're almost 10 minutes in. They obviously do not want to take this guy to the hospital.
Those are your choices.
All right, so let me jump up here to my next bump. Let me kick it back just in case I didn't write the time down right.
I'm a patient man, but I've been out here for a long time.
Now the officer's getting a little aggressive.
160 over 78. What's your name?
What she found manually is 160 over 78. That's a high blood pressure. I'm a big, heavy-set guy, right? The normal range, I think, the normotensive, I believe is the word, the normotensive range, which is the area that, okay, this is a normal blood pressure. The book teaches is like 110 to 120 over 80. Yeah, it fluctuates. I think mine can fluctuate between 120 and 140 on the higher end. And anything over 130, I think now is high blood pressure. I expect to have higher blood pressure, and that lower number is the constant pressure, that kind of thing. But I personally expect myself to have higher blood pressure because I'm 6'7". I am overweight, right? He looks to be, from what I've seen, an average height. So let's call it 5'5" to 5'7", average build. Okay, no obvious overweight obesity going on here. And she just pulled a high pressure, what I consider high pressure. Let's hear it again.
If not, you're going with me.
Now, that kind of threat. You're not being clear. If you're not going with him, you're going with me. Going where? He still does not register that. He doesn't register, I might go to jail. Because that's the implication, right? You're going with me. The implication is you're going to jail. No, he doesn't register it. That's a pertinent negative. That is something that he should show some kind of registration there, some kind of obvious stubbornness, or I don't want to go to jail, or something on his face. Nothing. He barely even looked at the officer as the officer was saying it.
That's how I'm going to solve this problem. I'm a patient man, but I've been out here for a long time.
160 over 78.
Now, 78, that's a normal diastolic blood pressure. That's the bottom number. That's a normal constant blood pressure. 160, maybe he's scared. Maybe he's nervous. Maybe the pressure went up. But 160 is still a little high. It is on the higher end. Now, it by itself is not an indication there's a medical problem, but it's not this is textbook normal. So in a situation where nothing else is falling into place and you have a mystery and you just don't know, your instinct should be, let's just take him to somebody to check him out.
Okay. What's your name? All right, hold on. Let's try something a little different. Hand me a piece of paper. What's your name?
It doesn't matter what language he speaks. He can speak his name.
Right.
Never mind.
What is...
He's not a retard.
No.
That was unprofessional. So right now, the EMT or medic, whoever's the closest to us right here on the bench with the big hoop earrings on the video, she is very unprofessional. She's the one who got serious about, I just want to be done and go to sleep. I don't care about it. The indication is I don't care about you. She didn't say the words, but she cussed him 4 times. Now, he's not a retard. It doesn't matter what language he can speak, he can say his name. You, as a teachable moment, you should avoid that. You should avoid judgment. That shows judgment. That shows frustration. Again, I'm there. I've been there before. I know for a fact I've said things to patients and patients' family that I never should have said. I'm just saying in a teachable moment, you're showing a mindset here. Always also be aware of cameras. I don't believe you have the right to tell a patient they can't record what's going on. And in this case, the police officer's recording it on his body cam.
No. But if you don't want to...
I'm not saying that should change your behavior. Your behavior should be the same across the board. But I am saying if you think you're going to say something dumb like he's not a retard, then maybe you should make sure the camera's not running.
He can read.
He understood what I said. He read my lips.
He's laughing with us. He knows what we talking about.
Now they're getting aggressive. Now they're not getting what they want, which is a name that doesn't tell you anything. Yeah, Nathan, well, okay, technically you're 9.5 minutes in, but I've said the same thing. This call could have been over 15 minutes ago if you just transport him from being altered. That is what I have said as well, Nathan, is that's why I said I'd spend, not counting the time. I don't know how long they were on scene, but let's count the time just from when they got back into the ambulance, which is about 3 minutes into this video. We've been in the ambulance almost 7 minutes now. Get your blood pressure. You're not answering my question. The whole falling asleep thing, I would have checked his level of consciousness too. Oh, wait, no, you're awake. Okay, you're good. You know what? I'm the medic. I don't know what's going on. My partner EMT, would you please drive? Let's go on and head to the hospital. 3 minutes on scene. Oh, well, 3 minutes in the back of the truck. Let's go on. Because depending on how far away they were, I mean, by all accounts, I don't think this has been edited in the middle of it. Obviously, it was edited in the front and maybe afterwards. But we're talking about 12 minutes dealing with this patient. You could have been, if depending on where the hospital is, you could have been already on your way back to your bed at this point.
See, what's your name?
Pudding asked me again, I tell you the same.
Now she's being mocking. Now, that Pudding asked me again. Now she's ignoring that he's a human being, that he's a patient in her truck, and she's mocking. Again, as a real human being, I understand this. You're frustrated, but you're frustrated. And here's the point I'm making to the students, to the fellow medics, to the people out there. You're frustrated because you went into this call not wanting to run this call. How do I know? I have been there. I have done that. I have gotten a call for stomach pain at 3 in the morning or for some random call, and immediately I'm bitching at the radio. I'm going, oh, blah, 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 saying 4-letter words, Ken 4, and just having a negative mindset, and I'm going into it with a negative mindset of why'd you wake me up for this crap? And I've had bad attitudes. I could have been this medic at some point in my career. I could have been that person saying the unprofessional things to him, being aggressive. So there's a difference between the teachable moment and me saying I'm a human being. So I'm telling you right now, I'm a human being. I could have been this person. Fortunately for me, I never had my career damaged or had a human life lost because of it. What I'm telling you is I learned from my mistakes, and the teachable moment here is if you have somebody in your truck, even as a third rider, who she started getting in on it, right? You notice before she was like, is that funny? She seemed to be trying to engage. Then she stood back and let them do their thing, which indicates to me she's a third rider, a trainee of some kind. Now, well, he knows what he's saying. He laughed with us. Now she's following with the attitudes. Attitudes are contagious. And there's some bad attitudes here. You've got to try, and I emphasize try. You should always try to enter a scene with the best attitude you could possibly have because it affects how you do your medicine.
What's your name?
All right, they're still stuck on the name. What's my next thing? All right, jump ahead to, we're almost at the end here. All right, jump ahead to about here.
You don't want to go to the hospital, Leos? Let's go.
All right, before that.
What are you looking at me for? You full of shit, bro.
Yeah.
That's a police officer. That's a police officer. But then the medic, look at their body. Look at the EMT's their body language. He is still basically the same body language. Still, and again, my judgment is clouded by the fact that I know he's schizophrenic because of the reports after the fact. My judgment is clouded because I've had rest. I'm sitting in office and I've watched this video a dozen times. I am by no means saying that I would have done a different job or a better job than they are. What I am trying to do is teach what we can learn from this video. Look, his body position is still shoulders down, very non-aggressive. Honestly, looking at the video, him just looking around, it's almost like a toddler. It's almost like a baby who's just observing everything and they don't know anything and they have no ability to communicate back. That's kind of what I'm getting off the body language. Look at theirs. Who I believe is the paramedic on the bench in the middle of the screen, she's done. She's just frustrated. You won't give me your name. I'm done with you. The EMT, I believe she's the EMT, sitting on the bench with the orange stethoscope, the dark hair here, sitting on the bench. She's been done. And then the EMT on the side, who's, I believe, a third rider learning from all this, what she's learning is this is a joke and the police need to handle it. That's my inference. And what I'm trying to teach you is your best way to deal with this, to be done with the call that you're frustrated with. You don't want to be up. You don't want to deal with this. Get them to the hospital. When I talk about consent and I teach about refusals, it is way easier just to go in and say, what hospital would you like to go to, and take them to the hospital and get your paperwork done and get back to bed, than it is to argue with them, to start a fight, to talk them into a refusal, because a refusal needs to take a whole lot more documentation than a ride. Case in point, I was working in Rockdale County many, many years ago, and I got called out for a stomach pain at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. I'd worked 24-hour shifts, which it seems like maybe they're working here because they talk about having tired, want to get back to bed, those kind of things. As opposed to a standard 10 to 12-hour shift is you just go in and you're working the night shift, so that's your shift. There's no sleeping in beds, no any of that. Your turn is at night. So this indicates that maybe they're a 24-hour shift like I was. I'd been asleep for 1 or 2 hours, had already worked a bunch of calls that day, and I got called for stomach pain. And when we rolled up, now we had to pass from our fire station that we were stationed at. We had to pass the hospital to come down to where the guy is. And when we rolled up, he's literally standing outside the apartment building with a suitcase, I guess I'll show him up here, with a suitcase and a glass of wine waiting on us. Yeah, my stomach's been hurting for 3 days. You know what I did? I just made him pour out the wine. I said, would you like to go back in the house and put it away? But I was aggressive. I was ill. I wasn't, hey, man, we're here to help you. I can't let you. I was like, no, you're not bringing that alcohol into my truck. You need to drink it or pour it out. You need to put your glass away or throw it away. And I mean, I was like I was aggressive. I was an ass. But what I did was, come on, get in the truck. He got in. I got him on the stretcher. I did the vital signs. And by the time I got his blood pressure and pulse, which I did a pulse ox, I did not check his pulse. I just did a blood pressure manually because we didn't have the automatics then at that point, and a pulse ox, and was done with it. And, okay, I didn't palpate his stomach. I didn't expose and inspect. I failed to do my job. And by the time we got to the hospital, I just walked him in. We did the paper. We did it done. Again, a bad example of a perfect call, right? But the difference is, just get done with the call. Just take him to the hospital. And the guy I had wasn't altered at all. Technically, you could argue he's altered because he had wine. We can assume he's been drinking. And Nathan says, we've all been tired on shift, but every patient gets 100% no matter what. I'm going to play devil's advocate. We try to give 100%, Nathan. But I think just like a battery life, right, or after a while, cell phones. For medics, we can talk about monitor batteries, how we have to recondition them. But everybody else can relate to cell phones. After a lot of use of charging and using the charge on the phone, you'll see that the battery doesn't last as long. So I will argue we try to give 100%, but maybe we're down to 80% or 60%, okay, to be fair. So yeah, they're done. They are done with this call.
Yeah, he is.
And then she goes, yeah, he is. She agreed with the cop who said he's full of shit.
Yeah, he is.
He still does not react. He doesn't react to positive. He doesn't react to negative. He does not react.
You don't want to talk to us? Yes or no? We know you can talk. We know you can understand us. You know, you got to be real with us.
Teachable moment. How do you know he can understand you? How? Yeah, I thank you, Nathan. He agrees with me that he means right to. How do you know that he can talk? Maybe he can't. Maybe he's mute. Now, obviously, he's not trying to communicate in any way. But how do you know he can understand you? Perhaps, playing devil's advocate here, perhaps he somehow just got here from another country and doesn't speak the language, doesn't understand you at all. Now, again, there's no indication of that. But my argument, and the argument the lawyers will make in court, is how do you know this? What about this indicated he could understand you? And you've got really no legal standing to say that.
What is your
Shake
name?
your head if you do.
Okay. Do you want to go to the hospital?
Now, I will give you this. Her body language was appropriate there. Other than the hand, she's still a little aggressive. She's still a little, I'm done with this call. But the body language was the subtlety there of, do you want to go to the hospital? She didn't do this. She didn't push him in a negative direction. She pushed him in a positive direction. It's a subtle way to get people. It's a sales tactic. I don't know if she meant to, but that was a good thing that she did. If you really want somebody to cooperate and go with you, you can give subtle clues of, hey, would you like to go to a hospital where you can get help, or would you like to go with the officer where you may go to jail? You can help steer somebody to get that help. So that was a good thing she did.
Yes or no? Do you want to go?
Okay, so he shakes his head. That is not A and O times 4, alert and oriented. That is not a refusal. That is not a no patient on scene, right? Which is something we can use. And what no patient is, I don't know what they use. I'm trying to cover all the bases here. What a no patient is somebody called 911 and you show up and there's literally physically no patient. Or you called and somebody said, no, my neighbor called for me. I didn't call him, fine. Or you go to like a motor vehicle accident where somebody goes, hey, some cars hit each other. And everybody goes, no, I'm fine. Do you want to be checked out? Please let me check you out. No, I'm fine. You can write no patient. You obviously have a patient. You've been in the back of this truck for 10 minutes now. So you can't use no patient. You can't get a refusal because he's not communicating. They're not even trying. Hold on a second. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Go to jail?
Well, those are your two
Then come on, I'm gonna give you a ride. You don't want to go to the hospital, Leos? Let's go. His vitals are.
Now, the two options the medic gave him was you want to go to hospital, yes or no. He shook his head no. We don't know why. I would not trust that in court for my license and my freedom. And she said, do you want to go to jail? He also shook his head no. And the cop said, come on, go with me. Isn't the indication for a normal, rational human being, isn't the indication here that you're going to jail? Because that's all they talked about is you want to go with us, you want to go to jail. Go with us, go to jail. And that's the medics, not the officer, but the medics. That's the choices in your brain. And we say, no, I don't want to go to jail. And the officer says, come with me. In the normal human reaction, is like, no, I don't want to go to jail. Because your assumption is if I go to the police, I'm going to jail. He follows the commands. A child follows commands. That doesn't mean anything. The following commands doesn't indicate alertness and knowing. So these are the flags that you're missing that need to be picked up from this video.
Are good, ladies?
Yes.
All right.
Now the officer asks, are you good, ladies? Or is it vital signs good? And they said yes.
Come on. I'm going to give you a ride. Do not walk on the interstate. Walk right on.
All right. Now, I'm going to back this up because I want you to pay attention to what I think the medics should have been doing the whole time. And that is verbally engaging whether they respond back or not. And that's what this officer does. He's not, Nathan. He's not, actually. And that's the thing. We're going to follow up with that here in a second. But that's the indication, right? Do you want to go with us or do you want to go to jail? Those are the options. And that's a rational, Nathan, you have a rational human being question. What is he going to jail for? He never asked that. He never, look at his face right here on the pause screen that you can barely see on my camera, but you can see it there. Still a flat, no response affect. Now, here's what I believe you as an EMT or medic should be doing with a patient at all times. If they're responding, then you're conversing. If they're not, you're still trying. It's like when an officer reads a Miranda rights to somebody. They're reading them on camera, on recording to show that they gave them to you. They ask, do you understand your rights? I don't know what the legality of them getting yes, I do, or no, I don't. But the fact is they're doing it. And we as medics don't practice that enough. Watch what this officer does verbally. This is what we should do as EMTs throughout this call.
Yes.
All right. Come on. I'm going to give you a ride. Do not walk on the interstate. Walk right on the shoulder road. You're not going to jail. You're not under arrest. I'm going to give you a ride. I ain't giving you a ride to jail because if I was going to give you a ride to jail, you'd be in handcuffs. You're not in handcuffs. You're not under arrest. I'll figure out where you live.
All right, so that's enough there. So the officer goes to welcome this side of the road. I want you to be safe. He's engaging. I'm not taking you to jail. If I was taking you to jail, we have no indication that the guy's responding at all or understanding any of it. He's just following the command. But the officer's like, put himself in between the patient and the danger. And he said, here's what we're going to do. Here's what's going to happen. And he even says, I'm going to try I'll figure out where you live. I'm going to take you somewhere safe. That's what he's talking about. So here's the follow-up to all of that. Now that's the teachable moments, right? I want you, if you're my student, I want you to be doing that with the patient as you come in. Hi, I'm Charles McFall. I'm here to help you. I'm with the ambulance. I'm an EMT. Whatever, however you want to put your levels, up to you. Most shirts, uniform shirts I ever wore, like mine says media specialist. Most shirts I ever wore said paramedic. Some even had my medic number behind it. There's indications of my levels with patches or whatever. But hey, introduce yourself. I'm Charles. I'm here to help. Get down on their level. And I'm going to take your vital signs, okay? Are you hurt anywhere? What's going on? And he's still not engaging. But I'm just going to be talking about what I'm doing just in case they're ignoring you. Just in case they don't feel like talking. Just to be a human being, that's what I'm doing. So that's what you should take away from all this. Now, for the news part of this story, the follow-up is that 4 hours later, he walked into a highway and got struck by a car and was killed. that same crew, by accounts of the report, that same crew had to run his dead body then. That, according to the news reports that I found today, the same crew was called out to run that call. I can imagine what went through their heads when they had to do that. But the state of South Carolina, the Department of Health in South Carolina found that they violated the EMT Act of South Carolina, that the medic and the EMT did. The Harmon, who was the medic, was suspended for 18 months. Her medic certification was suspended for 18 months, where she could not work as a medic. However, for that 18 months, they let her retain her EMT certification, and she's still working as an EMT for that time. Some of that public outcry has been, how dare you? She should have lost her career. I don't know. I honestly don't know if that's the case, if she should have lost her career. I can tell you, as a medic, you're getting paid here. You have responsibility. It's embarrassing. It is detrimental. It is a punishment to work at a lower level. Should she have been banned from working at all from 18 months? Maybe. Maybe she should have. I don't know. See, that becomes a legal guideline issue, right? That becomes a, what does the state say the punishment is? And if there's not strict guidelines of the punishment, then it has to go to some kind of governing board or a judge or something along those lines. They have to decide the punishment. Now, the EMT, who is Givens, again, we don't know which is which in the videos, got suspended for 6 months. Could not work at all for 6 months. So they did get punished. The officer, I don't know what happened to the officer, and here's why I believe he definitely is just as guilty. No, he doesn't know the medicine. I have had officers push me, challenge me to take patients to the hospital. You know, I've had somebody be drunk, they're in handcuffs, and they got hit in the head with a bottle, and they're bleeding, and I clean it out, clean the glass out as best I can, and the bleeding stopped. And I look at the officer going, I'll be more than happy to take him to the hospital. The bleeding has stopped, the vital signs are normal. I believe he needs to be checked out at the hospital just to be sure, but you're going to have to take those handcuffs off, or you're going to have to ride with me in my ambulance. And they've chosen to take him by their own car, by a police officer car, by a vehicle, their office, if you will. As I look back on that, maybe I should have insisted more on transporting, because there's no refusal, right? I wrote my report. Now, here's what I did. I wrote my report on scene, and I turned over care to a police officer. If that patient died from his injuries, I probably would have lost my career, because here's the legality of it. Is the officer trained to handle a medical emergency? Probably not. Even if he's trained, is he equipped? No, because I'm equipped with my ambulance. He's not equipped to handle a medical emergency in his car. However, the flip side of that is I've had officers go where I'm like, no, there's no medical need for them to go to the hospital. They're not my patient. No, you need to take them. You need to take them. What happens if this? What happens if that? The officer didn't push anything. Obviously, something's wrong. Now, there is actual footage of this officer. Apparently, he drove 18 miles away to another city, went to a gas station that was closed down for the night. It's dark. There's nobody there. Lets the guy out of his car with no, according to the report, no shoes, still no shirt, no ID, and just let him walk away. I thought you were going to take him somewhere safe. Take him to the hospital. You've got no way to identify this person. He has no cell phone, no way to contact him, and you drop him off essentially in the middle of nowhere. You're just as guilty as these medics who missed everything. It turns out that this man has a history of schizophrenia. That quite possibly, because they said there were no drugs in the system, according to the report, that could be no narcotics, no illegal drugs. That could also mean he was off his medication for schizophrenia. I don't know. But the biggest teachable moment of this is you had him. There was no jury in the world who would say, yes, he can consent. Yes, he has a legal standard for understanding. They did no paperwork, at least while he was there. They got no signatures. They didn't document anything other than some vital signs. I'd be curious to see what they wrote up to turn into their state or turn into their agency. There's so much wrong here. You've got to document everything you do. So how did they end up documenting that? He went with police into police custody, but he wasn't in custody. The police officer just said, I'll take you somewhere. I don't know. It's frustrating, and it is frustrating that why did that, anyway, it's frustrating that my playback stopped. It's still fine. Anyway, sorry, it was a little moment. There's a lot to learn from this video. And I think that we need to push this more. I think that hopefully this show that I've done today, maybe you're a captain at a service, maybe you're just a medic, and you can go and play it for somebody and show them this thing. Maybe you'll go to gyms. It's on gyms. We have this linked. We have this linked in there. You could look up South Carolina incident, schizophrenia. I think the video I played had the name of the patient on there. Because that's now in the press and been out there. There's ways to search this video. You can go back through our posts and on our Facebook page and find it. Use this video. Educate your people on how to approach the possibility of mental illness, how to even look for the signs of mental illness. Because I kept pointing out, he is not responding. There's no affect. I would not be able to tell you he's schizophrenic. He could have been autistic. He could have had a brain bleed. He could have had syphilis, which eats at the brain and makes you forget things. He could have all kind of neurological issues, medical or traumatic, that we don't know about. The safest thing, you've got to document. What are you going to document? That you let him out on the side of the road? Or are you going to document that you took him to the hospital? So we need to educate our people more. We need to have better ways to educate our people more. And as a representative of Georgia Institute of EMS, a school that teaches people, we are looking at this, seeing how we can teach better, because we know we're not preparing our students for that situation. We know we were not, as medics in the field, prepared fully for that situation, other than always be safe, always err on the side of helping. You're the patient advocate. You're there to make sure they get what they need. And that was just not done here. It's sad. It's dangerous. I do hope for both of those medics. Do I think they need to lose their career? No. Mistakes like this should be learned from. And here's what happens. If they lose their career, how do they pay the family? Because the family's going to sue them. Civil suit takes a whole lot less than a criminal case to prove wrongdoing. And the state found that they violated the EMS Act of South Carolina, which means they did not do their duty, which means they are going to be sued and probably be found, I don't know, is it guilty in a civil suit? But probably the judgment will go to the people suing. And now they have to pay the family restitution. They have to work to make that restitution happen. I think they should learn from it. It's a tough place to be when somebody died because of this. They obviously were not found to be criminally negligent in the state of South Carolina, because that wouldn't have gotten a suspension. You've been barred from being an EMT and you've gone to jail. They didn't go to jail. It's just a tough situation. We need to do better as educators, as people in the field, as people with partners. Go back and talk to your partner about this. Watch this video. Watch my video, absolutely, but that's 2 hours long almost now, an hour and a half. But watch this 11-minute video and talk about how you would do it differently. What can we look for? These things that happen. Now, everything's recorded in society, and that's a great thing, because we need to be able to teach from the mistakes that are made so that they don't keep getting made. Because I know in my day, when there were no cameras, something like that could have been swept under the rug. Could have been. Not saying would have been. But easily could have been documented is somebody else's fault. Easily could have been changed. Bad things happen when we're not clear, when we don't have the clarity and the transparency that we need to have as medics. Not while I was on the truck. When I was on the truck, I wanted to be left alone. I wanted to be private. I didn't want cameras in the back of my truck, because I knew there was stuff I was doing that was not right. Not intentionally, but that could lead to issues that isn't 100% safe. I'll be honest. As much as I love being on the microphone, there's a little of a paranoia in my mind that I'm going to say something incorrectly, like teach. I don't like recording my lectures live. I like recording my lectures in a closed situation like this, because I'm afraid, like I did yesterday, that I'm going to say something incorrect and get called out for it in a negative way, or possibly be so wrong. Now, what I said yesterday was not so wrong that I'm incompetent, but there's a paranoia of, am I so wrong that I'm incompetent? Because I'm trying to help others. Anyway, transparency, education. If we don't learn from these mistakes, we're going to repeat them. If you'd like to learn the way I teach with examples here, with stories, if you like that hands-on approach, that personal touch of we really want you to understand this, and it's not one teacher for your whole class. You'll get 3 to 5 different teachers for your class. We're about to open up registration for EMT classes coming up. July 15th is the EMT orientation. We also have an advanced EMT class coming up that orientation will be in July as well. We have recertifications that we're doing. If you need your recertification, if it's coming up in March, get on it now. Call us, talk to us, 678-561-2368, option 1. We'll get you to somebody who can talk to you. And if we can't answer, like today, I saw the phones blowing up, but I'm here on the show. So leave a message, and we will definitely get back to you. Email me about the show, charles@gaiems.com. If you got more information that I missed on this call, by all means, I will listen to it. We'll do another show on it to follow up with it. If you got other things you'd like to talk about, I know some people reached out last week. I absolutely want to talk to you about what it is you want to talk about. And we'll do new show ideas. Maybe we'll have you on as a guest to talk about what you're doing. Conversation changes the world. And until we change the conversations, then we will not change any mindsets. And Nathan asked this question, what about medic classes? We're working on that still. I don't think it's going to be this calendar year, but we are slowly but surely working those steps to get accredited by so you have to be in Georgia, you have to be have an accredited institution behind you to be able to teach paramedicine. So we don't have a medic or a paramedic class yet, but we are working those steps. So thanks for asking. But right now it is EMT, advanced EMT, CPR, first aid. If you're a citizen and watching this, we'll absolutely help you out with your CPR, first aid. We've got first responder classes we do from time to time. By all means, give us a call. We're here to help. And we want to educate you in the best possible way. Thanks for watching today. I do this every Friday afternoon. I try to kick this off by 2:30 p.m. And we're actually going to be doing more. Why is it not letting me? Oh, that's why I've got this transition thing on. We're definitely we're going to be doing more lectures, more videos, more live events. So stay tuned to this Facebook page, facebook.com/Georgia Institute of EMS. We're also on YouTube, some of the old videos there. And we're working on putting all of this into podcast form. So you can download the video to your phone, or you can download the audio as well. Well, thanks for watching. I appreciate the input and the feedback, and I'll talk to you again next week.